Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brandon Charleston here, recording another quick tutorial for you for all things AI and automation. If you haven't seen my channel before, I basically post everything when it comes to leveraging AI and automation, so that way you can save time and do all the things that you want to do besides doing mundane tasks. So with that, in this video, I'm going to show you and demonstrate a workflow that I have built out that is completely automated. Basically, it will scrape Crunchbase, it will enrich all the information as far as what companies were recently funded, what series, and then it'll send it through Clay, in which I'll identify the decision maker, namely the founder, or whoever I want to identify. It'll enrich their information, send hyper-personalized outreach all the way through instantly. So all I gotta do is just work with the replies. So I'm gonna show you how you can connect all that and then basically make it into a workflow where all you gotta do is just work on the back end, right, of the replies anyway. So let's go ahead and get into it. So just in case you haven't seen my previous video, I did post a video about n8n and a workflow that is scheduled. Essentially, the trigger is every day it's going to run, I believe at like 9 a.m. Mountain Time, which is Utah. And so essentially, it's going to scrape every single day of what companies were recently funded. And so it's going to go through a number of different things. And this template is actually on n8n's template, and so I definitely encourage you to check that out. There's a great tutorial on it. In fact, the template guides you and it posts the results to a Google Sheets, in which you can take that information and then take it from there, right? So so I'm taking it just a little bit step further, which as I'm putting into Clay and then doing another outreach sequence through instantly. So essentially, it is going to scrape here, and then what this does is it splits the results, because anytime you do a scrape, there's going to be an array of data with all the JSON and basically the tokens and the data points there. And what's going to happen is, I'll just go and click into it. There's actually no data right here, so I will demonstrate here in a second. But I'm going to split that out. This one, it prepares the data, basically organizes it, and then from there, I'm using Piloter to enrich the company to basically get the LinkedIn profile, in which case I'm going to merge the two. This is a merge node. And then from here, you can see I'm basically pushing it back to Clay through a webhook table. And so the Clay webhook table is going to receive that information, and then you can basically take it from there as far as what is next. So moving into Clay, I have set up a webhook, right? So I just basically, you go to create new table, and you just need to do import data from webhook. And so from here, this is how you connect n8n or Make or Zapier or any sort of external tool through an API call. And so you're going to basically follow the instructions here. In this case, it's going to be a post request. You put the URL here, and then I am sending all that information to Clay, right? And so from there, you can see that this is another feature. So hear me out. Just see this all the way through. You can actually convert a table now into a workflow. It is a beta feature, so it may or may not be in your workspace, but if it's not, it's coming. It's definitely legit because it works and it's awesome. And so you can see here that I have just a standard table, right? Now with a number of different features and integrations, you can write different tables, and you can have different tables kind of write to each other, pull data, that kind of thing. But I wanted to put it in a way where it was automatically funneling it through and organized into a workflow. And so that's where workflow comes into play. So this is just a brand new table, but what you can do here is you can just hit the three dots. You're going to do turn into workflow. And what it's going to do is turn into a workflow. But you can see now your tables are going to be powered because it's all going to run automatically. And so you could, when you hit the gear or the cog, this is the table, and then you could build out your workflow, right? And so, and then from there, which let's just go ahead and dive into it. This is a powered workflow right here. So you can see get data from webhook. Okay, this is pulling from n8n, and so if we just click into this, you can see I have all the information right here, and there's only there's just almost 250 that I have been going now, but you can see every single day it is constantly doing a scrape. In fact, today it has been going. So all these companies were recently funded, and then you could see here that it's just, all the information is passed through. And so this is the end of the workflow as far as I'm concerned on this particular step. And so then what I do is it is going through, and I did a get people. So through the workflow, you could just essentially build out another table inside the workflow, and then it's going to just do find people. And so what you do is it's going to bring up the search criteria. Let's see here. If it were, I don't want to mess this up, but if I were to, we're just going to go into the new one here. If I went into this one, right, then I hit enrich data, you could do find people, and then you're going to punch in your search criteria of what you're looking for, and then the source is going to be from this initial table. So that way it takes your companies that you started with a webhook, so n8n is going to push that data into the first table, which is all the companies. Then from there, you could do your criteria from there. And so for me, as an example, I narrowed it down to only founders and CEOs that are located in the United States, and that is all I want. I removed like assistant and things like that. In fact, let's just dive right back in. You can see here that I am looking after CU founder, removing assistant, and essentially it is giving me all the founders of who it is, right, of who is recently funded. Then from there, what I am doing is enriching it. So the next step, for me, I'm deduping, so that way I don't have any duplicates in there. And then the next step is to get their data, right? So I've done a waterfall enrichment through a number of different data providers. Number one is Lead Magic, because good job, Jesse. Shout out to you. And then the rest of them, I'm using just a waterfall enrichment. Make sure you validate that kind of thing. And so then from there, I'm enriching the company, getting their information, getting their LinkedIn profile, that sort of thing. And then I'm also using Claygent in this case, just to really understand their ICP, making sure I'm going in and understanding, what their value is. And so visit the website. I'll put a summary of what company name does. For additional context, here's the description. And then I put in here as well, only output if you're 95% or more confident. Now, in this case, I am using GPT-4o just because I want to make sure it is on the spot on, it's consistent, simple, that kind of thing. As another thing that is best practice, you're going to want to, especially if it's automated, just to make sure you're preserving credits, or you're not spending a lot of money, especially with expensive token counts like GPT-4 and things like that, is you're going to want to use conditional formulas. There's a number of different ways you could do conditional formulas. The more you work with it, the more you'll be able to know what you plug in, but I definitely encourage you to make sure you do conditional formulas, so that way if a particular step is not meeting your criteria, such as in this case, if the master email column is empty, then it will not move forward. You can see that right here, because we can't send an email without an email address, right? So it is stopping there. And then from there, I am normalizing their first name. Now, there's a number of different ways you can normalize a first name. Obviously, some people put all caps. There's a lot of different reasons and variables to that. And the reason I'm using Claude to do this, number one, I'm using Claude Haiku, is I want it to understand the first and last name, and there could be also some scenarios. For example, this guy, Rishav and Rish, right? He clearly goes by Rish on there, so it's going to understand that and say, hey, Rish, instead of, hey, Rishav. It just looks a little bit more human, right? Especially if you're going off of that. So anything to really improve that personal touch. So I'm using AI in this case to normalize the first name, make sure it's formatted correctly and all that stuff. And then I'm using a personalized first line. And so with the copy, that I've put together, I'm basically using a combination of syntax, which is basically saying the same sentence in a multitude of different ways, right? So it could be something like, do you know what time it is? Would be the same question is, would you happen to know the time, or what the what is the time, or what is the current time of day? Those are all the same questions, just in different ways. And when it comes to email deliverability, Spintax is going to be a huge leverage point for you to be able to do that. And so from here, and then I did subject line just because I wanted to just keep it variable, right? And then you can see here I put it all the way through to instantly. And so from here, I did the master email column, I did the company name, and then when you are sending data from Clay to Instantly or Smart Lead, you want to make sure your variable name is exactly to the T of the merge tag that you're sending over it to Instantly, and so within curly brackets, right? And then again, every single step, I'm making sure it doesn't move forward without the conditional formula intact, just for best case. And so then from here, I just started this campaign, so there's really not a whole lot of data to go off of here, but you can see I just did one step. I'll probably add to it a little bit more, especially with the SendSpark integration. I've been seeing a lot of success there for one of my clients, so I'm going to add that personalized touch with a video outreach for the second email. For the first email, it's a little sticky, a little tricky, because you don't know with deliverability, you don't want to put a link or anything like that. But once you get through the barrier, in my experience, you always want to do like the second follow-up is usually the best way, because the first one, if it's text only, if you hit the inbox, you're good. But then the second one, a lot of times, you want to put your face, to a video and stuff, which adds a little bit more. And so that's really about it. And so you can see here that, based on all things, that this is completely automated. So it will sit there every single day, at 9 a.m. It'll do a fresh scrape through n8n. It'll funnel it through Clay. I've showed you how you can start a single table, really any table, but start a single table from a webhook where it can catch that data, and then turn that table into a workflow to where you can move all the information, find who your contact is, and from here I can build it out to like CMO, things like that. But this is just one scenario of how you can automate your entire workflow, business development wise, could be done in just every day. Just go, right? And then at any point I can turn it on or off. The starting point would be n8n, so I would just turn it off if it's going to be like a holiday or something like that. Or even just the campaign, just turn off the campaign. So, but this is one of those things where I don't have to worry about it. It just gets done, and then I just have to monitor my inbox on this particular campaign. It's going to be an evergreen campaign where it just more companies that come through Crunchbase, I'm going to just reach out to. That way, you're not leaving any stone unturned. So, anyway, I hope this was helpful. Please like and subscribe. Appreciate all your guys' support in all things AI and automation. So, if there's any other things that you request, please put it in the comments below. But again, thanks for watching, and take care.